best could be. I haven't seen my Super Nintendo since 2003. That's alright, I don't mind. I've got a Switch in the old SwitchAroo. My friend Mike and Jaymo too.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Old SwitchAroo, where we're talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jaymo.
We're on our break still from full episodes before we start season 3. So this is another episode of the Old SwitchAroo Lite Switch. Instead of our normal focus on the over 250 retro games available on the Nintendo Switch Online, today we'll be going through Jaymo's top 20 games of all time. Subscribe or follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to make sure you're ready for when season 3 starts.
You got to do it. It's going to be an amazing season, Mike.
Yeah. And before we get into what we had planned for today, we have we don't have a big announcement. Nintendo has a big announcement, which is the Switch 2.
Heck yeah.
So,
What'd you make of it, Mike?
I mean, first of all, they're definitely not. I've seen people suggest the Switcheroo as a title.
No.
And I've definitely been like, I don't know if that's really good or really bad for us. So I think we don't have to deal with that sort of Damocles.
Right. Yeah. That potential success.
Yeah. It is, I think the biggest thing to me is that they've said that basically games from the Switch will be playable on the Switch too. And that is huge. And that feels very much not like a Nintendo thing normally.
Yeah.
So
the Wii U, played all the Wii games. Well, I should say almost all of them. But, I'm also curious to see if Nintendo will do what they've never really done before, which is a game will work on both systems, but it's better on Switch 2. I'm assuming the graphical superiority of this new system will mean that some games will run better as an incentive to pick it up. Because there's quite a few Switch games coming up that seem graphically intensive. And so I fully expect when they reveal more from the console in April, they're going to reveal, enhanced videos of games that we already know are coming out as kind of better on Switch. Or better on Switch too. They could even like put that on the box. I'm excited. So you don't play your Switch handheld almost
I
ever, right?
no, I never do.
See, I rarely dock it. So I have a Gen 1 Switch. I never upgraded to the OLED. I am very excited for bigger Joy-Cons and a bigger screen. And in fact, like I think one of the more interesting things about the Joy-Con is that there are now two extra buttons on the side or the top of the controller if you, remove it from the system and use it like a little mini one. So like for the first time, you can have as many face buttons and shoulder buttons as the Pro controller. Whereas previously, like if you imagine the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, you have two shoulder buttons on each side of the controller. Well, that's not true with the current Joy-Con. So
Or I
just that
guess,
alone.
oh, so yeah, like, or if it's because I don't know about the Pro controllers, but I have like the Joy Cons as their own controller.
Yes, you have the connector.
Yeah. So I think that
So
works the same way, right? Or it's the
yeah,
same
but
ultimate thing.
yeah, but so like I'm holding up, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up the Pro controller. So you have the L and ZL buttons and the R and ZR buttons. Well, you take a Joy-Con out, right? Now the shoulder buttons would be the side of the controller, and there's only two buttons up here on the top.
Okay.
You can't play it. You
Yeah.
can't have access to all the normal buttons. So and also the fact that the Joy-Cons are bigger, like you would agree that like playing a game with a single Joy-Con, it's kind of torturous, right?
I mean, that's why we got two controllers, even though I don't have four people here. Kat and I decided that like trying to do like Mario Kart or something with the Joy Cons was just frustrating.
Yeah. It's kind of like you do it as like a handicap of, on a really good player or as a prank and make someone play with that little thing. So I'm curious if the bigger Joy-Cons will, kind of make that a bit more comfortable. What's your take on the mouse con that Merceloon in our Discord was talking about?
I I'm wondering what the point is to some extent. Like,
Yeah.
or it really is like it feels like a niche way of playing it where it's like it certainly it doesn't work if you're playing it docked, or not docked, if you're playing it handheld,
Right.
because you're not using that. And it also doesn't seem terribly conducive to, like, if you're sitting around on a couch playing, like that's also a difficult thing. Like I don't play in stuff that requires a mouse on my laptop that much because I'm not well situated to have a mouse for that. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of wondering about that. The only angle I can see that being really interesting is for something like Star Wars Hunters, which is about to do PC. And I think you brought up the keyboard and mouse players having an advantage because they have the mouse for aiming.
Yeah. It'll be really fascinating because also like one of the biggest upcoming Switch games, Metroid Prime 4. People have been waiting like literally decades, or maybe at least a decade, I think, for that game. So it'll be curious to see if they have an option for okay, aim with the mouse con. So for those who haven't seen the trailer, I will link to it. Can we link to it,
Yeah,
Mike?
yeah, we can link to it.
You can put the Joy-Con on its side because there's an optical laser, um, and also there's a little attachment that clearly is meant to help you slide the Joy-Con around on a surface. I'm excited for this because I feel like this could make Nintendo the system for Steam ports. Like that happens on Xbox and PlayStation, but there's no real. I mean, I guess there's probably a mouse peripheral for PlayStation 5. I'll be honest, I'm not certain, but it's definitely not something the console came with. And so I think I'd be really excited to play a lot of point and click games on my Switch too, because they're popular on the PC. And, people are talking about Nintendo Switch Online games. We'll get Mario Paint or like Mario Maker will be awesome with this. Um, I just hope they're wide enough to feel comfortable. I feel like it also might be a weird feeling mouse,
Yeah.
but, I said in our Discord, I'm here for Nintendo gimmicks. What do you think the C button does? Do you know what I'm referring to?
N- no.
Okay, so YouTube viewers can see that there is a button that is the screen capture button on the actual left Joy-Con. There's another one that was very subtly labeled C. This button here is not on the Switch. It's a new button, and they haven't said what it does yet. And my first thought went to capture, and they're trying to make this easier to stream from, but also like the C button in terms of Nintendo 64, it was like for movement and like inventory and stuff. So I'm curious. I don't know. I wonder if it almost like changes the functionality of
Is
it.
it just for Genesis games that need an A, B, and a C button, and they decided to make the mapping the most annoying possible? Being, oh yeah, no, the C button's the C button. Where the heck's that? Oh, we hit it.
Yeah, it's hidden on the left-hand side. Um, so we did a poll in our Discord. And by the way, if you're listening to this, join our Discord. Be a part of this conversation. We're split. We're 50-50. Half the Discord was like, we're excited for this, and half the Discord was like, I'm not convinced, but I'm curious to see what else they're going to do with this. I think my biggest kind of reservation was that they showed a glimpse of Mario Kart 9. It I thought for a second it was just another expansion of Mario Kart 8. Like I was really hoping to be wowed by the look of it, and I've seen a lot of deep dives into that video showing how like the graphics are kind of stretchy and like it implies it could be an open world Mario Kart. So that could be really cool. But I was bummed to be wondering, is this a new game? Because I'm hearing people say that this system will have parity with the PlayStation 4. Mike, that system is 12 years old. So hopefully this means it's going to be affordable if it's not going to be graphically. I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
PlayStation 5, but I was hoping for like PlayStation 4.5 level graphics. I don't know.
I mean,
Um,
you're also comparing something that is very much a stay in one place console to a handheld.
yeah, it's
Like
true.
there is also the element where they could make something that could more easily handle higher graphics if it wasn't a, and this needs to be fairly easy to play holding the whole thing.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah,
granted, I'm also more of, and this is probably good for doing a retro game podcast. That I'm also not terribly worried about like make the graphics better.
yeah. And the gap between PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 is not as big as like the gaps in console generations when we were growing up. There's a lot of like finesse that's happening, but like I
Yeah.
mean, I think most Switch games look good enough, you
Yeah,
know. I just don't know if like with a new console, if you want your first thought should be, oh, this is good enough. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And of course, I there's also the hope that when they move up the console to Switch 2, I hope that also means that Nintendo Switch Online advances a console or two.
Well, so here's my prediction. Okay, this will go viral, Mike. I am wondering if that mysterious C button or the mouse con functionality is because we're going to get DS games. Nintendo DS games had two screens, and one was like touch functionality. Um, and so the Switch does have touch functionality, but you can't do that while docked. Like I'm curious. There's too many classic games on the DS to ignore that completely. So how are they going to do that? And that's not the next console that would be up. We'd be getting GameCube's games next, and I think we will. But I'm also wondering, like, will the mouse con function as a stylus would have for like the DS screen? You see where I'm going for with
I
this?
think so.
So
Yeah.
like I have my console docked. It's on my TV and the screen is split in half, but I'm not going to touch my TV. Okay, but I can use the mouse functionality and there'll be like a little stylus on the screen so I can still play the Nintendo DS games on my television. You heard it here first, folks. So Nintendo Old Switcheroo, we called it. DS games with mouse con functionality. Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm getting more excited, and this I think will be the first console in a long time that I plan to buy at launch. Um, so
I'm
are you gonna?
I don't know. I'm mostly just glad to see that, or because the games themselves are continuing, that gives me confidence that like the Nintendo Switch Online stuff should also still be continuing, probably.
Yeah, yeah, and you'd hope that they would all be able to be played on the old Switch, the old Switch Aroo.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, love it.
All right. So now let's get on to the main topic for this, which is your top 20 games.
So stoked. Yeah, we're doing this because at the end of season one, Mike got to present his 20 games, and yeah, I think it really gave a glimpse into your personality. And it's kind of fun to talk about games that we would never normally have an excuse to on here. So my honorable mention is Thrill of the Fight 2 on MetaQuest. I have finally figured out the secret to being good at that game because like I'm a little guy, I know I seem larger than life on here, but like I'm short. I'm a short king. I'm a little man. I'm a big boy. And so for this boxing game, it knows exactly your height, and so I've been trying to punch up at my opponents. It's really difficult. I just work the torso, Mike. They're
Ah,
they're swinging over my head. I'm working the torso. I'm knocking them out, and I can see their frustration. But just the fact that that game functions as well as it does, which isn't perfect, but really immersive VR game. Thrill of the Fight 2, MetaQuest. It's gonna be a thing. My number 20 game was and I'm such a gamer. It sounds like a humble brag. It was really hard to narrow it down. This was originally top 33, and it's like that's not fair. So there are a number of games that I had to cut. Maybe I'll do an article. I think I will. I'll do something on it
yeah,
for the
go
old
for it.
switcheroo.com about the games that didn't make the cut, but man, they're wonderful.
Heck, you can put the games that did
House,
make the cut in there if you want. Go for it.
yeah, yeah, maybe like a little haiku for each one. That sounds fun. Actually, I think I might challenge myself to that. The House of the Dead 2
Isn't that your
on
19th?
Sega Dreamcast. Is my oh, I apologize. I'm reading the spreadsheet wrong
Yes.
because row one is the header. So, oh, I'm so
JMO's top
glad.
JMO's top game of all time. Header.
Header game. Well, I'm really excited then because I was really sad to lose this one. No, yeah, top 20. Thank you, Mike. All right, off to a rocky start, but we're used to that. Hollow Knight on the Switch. Have you played it?
I haven't. I'm aware of it. Like I've heard a lot of talk about it. When I went and looked up it very briefly on Steam, and I saw Souls like as one of the descriptors, um, that did seem to then make a little bit of sense because you keep comparing things to Souls like.
and it's Souls like Metroidvania. Like those are my two genres. And I think one of the big games for Switch 2 is going to be Silk Song. It's a sequel that we have been waiting years for. And
Oh,
they just tweeted that yes, the game still exists, and everyone's afraid it's a vaporware. But we've seen too much of it to be vaporware. Like there's clearly a game, and I'm really curious what the delay is. But
I mean, I'm going to hold you to that. Well, we've seen too much of it for this game to not come out when we get to something else on your list. Um,
oh,
um, okay, so that's what I have also heard the buzz for Silk Song, and I have lost track of what it is like the follow up to.
Hollow Knight sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stars a side character who kind of stole everyone's imaginations in the first game.
Okay.
But I mean, you should check it out though. I feel like it's aesthetically it's so cool. Tonally, it's really cool. Um, yeah, strong recommend. So number 20. No, number 19. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. Listen, this is our second episode of the night. I'm getting a little loopy. Number 19, House of the Dead 2 on the Dreamcast. Did I ever make you play this one with me?
You absolutely did, and of course, I also played the some would say better version of this,
The
Typing of
Typing
the
of the
Dead.
Dead? Yeah,
Which apparently the speedrun is to spell badly so that it keeps giving you easy words as a fun, weird aside.
that's amazing.
But yeah, no, that is definitely a game that I don't remember it having the two on there for some reason. Because I'm like, I've only played one House of the Dead. I thought it's the first one. And then I
Yeah.
was checking. It's like, oh, they did House of the Dead 2.
And it's cool is that they just announced the remake for Switch, and I guess Switch 2 actually. And so that ties back to Switch 2. I hope that the Joy-Cons function better as light guns
That's what
because
I was going to wonder about.
yeah, House of the Dead remake did that, but not well. The calibration was just really hard to get right. Ironically, if you ever pick up Clubhouse Games, that has the best light gun Joy-Con functionality on the current Switch. So I'm really hoping they figure that out and Switch 2, it'll work perfectly.
Yeah, because that would be
Num
fun to see. Because I think it was, check. Yeah, because I would have played it on Dreamcast, but I feel like I remember that with a controller as well. Am I just
yeah, you
remembering
can.
badly?
No, no. I mean, a
Okay.
lot of people play it with a controller. We had light guns at my house. I think you preferred controller, but I mean, there's no bad way to play that game. Whether
Yeah.
you're typing, whether you're shooting, it's so campy. It's so immersive. It's so fast. I just love that game. Number 18, Duke Nukem 3D on the PC.
Yeah, there's that franchise of this game's got to come out. They've been working on it so long. Um,
Well, Duke Nukem Forever did come out.
Eventually,
Yeah, I like that game.
uh,
I know we shouldn't. It hasn't aged well at all.
yeah, no, that
But
was
I
definitely.
think
I would say Duke Nukem 3D is definitely one that I honestly cannot remember if that is ever a game we owned or if that is a
yeah,
game that just I played as like I had it from demos because
yeah,
I only remember like two levels of that game and not
probably the
going
first
further
one.
through it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But like the reason that makes my list is because it was a very impressive. Like each level felt like an open world game because of the number of secrets and the pathways and the little interactions. All the things, where like you'd walk up and you'd press the space bar and then like you could play pool or you could like open the movie theater and like watch the screen or you could walk up to a woman and we won't say what happens when you do that. But it was such an immersive game. And then to add on to it that you have multiplayer and you could decide as a death match or you could work together and the level still fully functioned even with other players either helping or hurting each other.
I feel
Just a
like
lot of fun times.
that was also one of the earlier games that I think of in terms of like a 3D game where there really was like something happens and now there's a hole in a wall kind of stuff that you have
Yes.
to go through.
Yeah, dynamic levels, destructible levels. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Number 17, Golf with Your Friends on my Xbox Series S, although it's on a lot of systems. Have you tried this one?
I haven't. I initially thought it was a game that I had at least seen, and then I went and looked into this, and so this appears to be like multiplayer golf that's like simultaneous.
Yes, yes, it is not turn-based.
And
Which
yeah, that leads to questions.
It's chaotic. It is chaotic because you're the balls of yourself and your opponent. So it's like mini golf on steroids. There's like loop-de-loops, there's anti-gravity sections, there's lava, there's spinning blades, and you are, trying to get your ball in the hole with the least number of strokes, but your ball is physically interacting with your opponent. So you can like knock each other, ricochet off each other, sabotage each other. There's all kinds of mods where you can make your ball jump, you can make your ball like, float. It's just such a rinky-dink game, but it's hard to beat when you're just, on voice chat, just goofing with people.
Okay, but it's still like the strokes are ultimately what matter.
Yes.
Okay, because I was
Yes.
trying to figure out like, does this turn into a race where it's like, didn't really care how many strokes as long as you got there first?
No. I mean, there's different, I think there is a way to make it that way.
Okay.
It's full of customization and it's on the Switch and it's never very expensive. Definitely recommend it. Number 16, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. I don't think you've played any Call of Duties, correct? On the Xbox 360 is the system for this one.
I think I played one of them a bit and it didn't go well.
Okay.
And I honestly don't remember which one because this was the last time we were in Australia. I think at some
Okay.
point we started up one of those and it was just like, here's a controller, good luck. And it did it. I died a lot, which is,
Yeah.
that's how these always end, but it wasn't quite my speed.
Yeah.
Although somehow those have, like, as a general franchise, it's spread through enough that I know I was in. I might have been in a sports bar that, like, it was a midweek thing where there was not real sports going on enough for the number of screens, and so they had like esports going on just on a
Yeah.
TV in there, and going in and being like, "Oh, I think I'm pretty sure that's Call of Duty," and then it kind of goes to something. Why do I recognize that?
Well, this one gets, I played a lot of Call of Duty games. It kind of is how my brothers and I, bond and, just chop it up on the voice chat. But this one, I think it had the best multiplayer feel and it definitely had the most fun kill streaks. A kill streak, Mike, is once you get a certain number of kills, you get a more powerful weapon. And
Oh,
so you can like summon in an airstrike. You can get like an automated turret. You can get like a, sort of death trooper armor. But this one was the one that added the attack dogs, where it's like three Rottweilers just appear next to you and they will run off on their own and just, you'll be getting kills and hearing people scream because this also has proximity chat. So if an enemy is close enough and you hear them scream, it's like, and okay, good job, Fido. The satisfaction of sending your dogs to go get somebody, release the hounds. It's
do you get to choose which, or is it like at a certain number you get a certain thing, or like is that a fixed thing?
you get to choose three, and the more effective ones require more kills.
Okay.
So actually, I think in the current Call of Duty, it's if you get it's either I think it's 20 kills without dying, you actually get a nuke, which means that you just literally blow up the other team and instantly win.
Oh God,
Um,
that's
so
giving me real bad vibes to like Ultima or something that had something that was basically a steerable nuke.
yeah. Wow, Ultima Online. Look at you, Mike.
Every so often, I
Number
played games people play,
number 15,
yep.
Streets of Rage 4 on the Switch.
Which I didn't know existed until your list.
It's so good.
It
It's
reminds me of the newer Turtles game of
yes.
the going back to that kind of thing where they've like this the animations or like the style, the artistic style is sort of the same but with just higher resolution. They haven't, it's not like they've changed that. They've just gone like pixel, you don't have to be on a pixel by pixel basis now,
Yeah.
and then add in more characters and stuff as well.
Yeah. And they added in more moves but it still has this amazing soundtrack. It They added with the DLC a endless mode, where like you're leveling up between levels and see how long you can last. It's the I think it's the best beat 'em up ever made. It just feels perfect. And there's very few games I've revisited at least in the beat 'em up genre, revisited over and over and over and over. Because a lot of games, it's like, the old Turtles game. You get to the end, you kind of have seen everything the game has. But this one, it's got that perfect game feel. It's crunchy, as the Cable Club League would call it.
Is the music sort of on? Because I also think of that as a good music one. Is the music on par as
Yes,
well? Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, and that was definitely also true for the next game, number 14, Splatoon 3 on the Switch. Mike, you and I played this one. We played like the you versus the Kaiju mode. Have
Yes.
you had a chance to revisit it?
I have not had a chance to go back into that for a while because I think other things have been higher up on what I've been jumping into. I also haven't had a chance to go back to that whole extra card game that it has that I
Yeah.
feel like I need to go back to.
That is deeply underrated. I was telling my students about that. They're like, "Oh, I don't have Nintendo Switch Online. You can play the card game." Oh, and it's like that card game is so clever. So for those who aren't familiar, Splatoon, it's a shooter game, but your goal is to, um, ink more of the level in your team's color. So it's kind of like real messy paintball. And there is a card game that captures that spirit of capturing territory in a turn-based mode. It's so clever. And that game also has a really fun single player mode. The music is great, and I love aiming with the gyroscope. I think that game does that better than any shooter as far as
Yeah.
gyro
I think
aiming
I'm not
goes.
as huge on that feature, but
Yeah.
and like I think plug in a lot of their things, which I guess is appropriate. Like Nintendo Music has a huge amount of the Splatoon 3 music on there, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and people go to concerts where the VJs, will perform the music from these games. So Splatoon, every Splatoon game has been phenomenal, but Splatoon 3, it's like really the culmination of everything good about it. I'm curious how you feel about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Nintendo Switch, because that is for many people the Switch game. Are you gonna ever get to that, or do you think you'll wait until we go through all the Zelda games and eventually get to it?
Honestly, I think if anything, it's that. Like there's also simply I may never bother with it, but there's certainly like so long as there's Nintendo Switch Online Zelda games, I don't want to jump ahead.
Yeah. Can you imagine a world though where we're doing this like 20 years from now and we're finally at Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch on like, hey Mike, it's time.
It'd be kind of like the Simpsons episode where like Bart isn't allowed to go see the Itchy and Scratchy movie until he's an adult.
Yeah, yeah. So next up, number 12, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate on the Nintendo Switch. You're a purist. You like the original.
I do, and I think I also have. I've probably played a little bit. Like I feel like I didn't play anything later than maybe the GameCube
Okay.
for Smash Brothers. Like there is almost a point of and this is probably where I diverge with people. Like there's a simplicity of a sort to because it's what 12 characters or something
On
in
the
the
original
first
one?
one,
Yeah.
and it's like 90 on the most recent one, and I'm like that feels like a lot.
Yeah. But that's why, like, I mean, Smash Brothers had to take a spot here, and it's just the sheer volume of that game. But what that game doesn't get enough credit for is that there's 90 characters. The game is pretty well balanced. That is an astounding feat. It's like imagine if there was 90 different types of pieces in chess and it still worked well. Ugh. There's a storms are brewing, Mike. Are you aware of the talks that have been happening with the Cable Club League?
No.
So we have been gently challenged to a fight night, where we're gonna throw down in fighting games, and people are gonna choose which podcast to represent, and whichever team gets more wins gets to write the outro for the rival podcast on their next episode. Probably should have asked you first before I agreed to this, Mike, but also it was my idea.
Of course it was.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be amazing. Well, before I get in trouble, let's go on to number 11, Silent Hill 2 Restless Dreams on the Xbox. Did you ever dabble in horror games?
Some horror games, but not the Silent Hill ones. I think I've gone more indie when I have,
Yeah.
and I've definitely
Well,
got a few that like I know that I own, and I just haven't like I have the Amnesia games, and I haven't ever actually played them.
I
Um,
was so afraid for those amnesia, afraid of those games for the longest time, and then I just recently beat it on my Switch not too long ago. They had like an amnesia collection for like $3 or whatever. But Silent Hill 2, like all the Silent Hill games are very dear to me, but Silent Hill 2 was the first one where like it really got under my skin. It's not so much about jump scares, it's about being unsettling. And there's a twist. Fans and Derek, actually, I don't know Derek because Derek knows the movies. I don't think he's played the games. Well, there is a masterfully written plot twist in Silent Hill 2. And when it happened, it hit and shook me in a way a game has never done before. So if you're gonna play one game, probably the re-release because I think there's added a lot of quality of life improvements. It's on PC and PlayStation.
yeah, because I was
That's
gonna ask because you specifically said that it was Silent Hill 2, Restless Dreams, and I thought the Restless Dreams part is I thought the original was just Silent Hill 2.
correct. And
And
the Xbox release was called Restless Dreams. And what's
okay,
interesting about it is that they added a new story, a little like kind of maybe it's an hour long, maybe 2 hours long side story that fleshes out one of the most interesting characters in
okay,
that game. Yeah. And there was a couple little like, extra unlockable stuff, but I didn't really have a PlayStation 2. I got an Xbox first, and so that's how I accessed it. And so that was my version of
oh,
Silent Hill 2.
okay. So that's more that's so that is the first version you played of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, I think my exposure to Silent Hill specifically is really limited to the movie and that maze that we went to that you left me for dead in.
Oh yeah, at Sinister Point.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, where you needed to have people to go through, and then you and Crystal, I think,
I think it was
left
Crystal,
the
yeah.
room, and then it was just me going through, and then kept being thrown off because it's just one person in there. It's like, yeah, 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 I know.
Yeah, that wasn't the Silent Hill maze, that was the Saw inspired one. But definitely though, there was like puzzles you kind of had to solve together and we left you behind. Sorry, Mike. Well, what's not scary? Number 10. So we're in the top 10 here. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Sega Genesis. So Justin does not have to punch me. Um, I don't know. It's that game, it's what made Sonic the hit that he is. It's what made him so popular that we've just celebrated the release of the third movie. Like everything from the storytelling to the extra characters to the tone of it, it all started with Sonic 2.
Yeah,
Um,
and of course, you want the full thing. We did that as the start of our season two.
yeah, check it out. It's a great episode with my brothers. Number 9 is a newer game, Elden Ring on the Xbox Series S. So now we're back to the Souls-like,
Yep.
Mike. I was just playing this with my little brother and our friend Heather, because I think these games are really challenging, but what I think you might not know about them is that you can summon your friends into your story to help you, and they get experience, and the monsters are much easier to handle as a team. But if you enlist the help of your friends, you have to make yourself vulnerable to invasions from hostile players. And so people you did not invite to your session will show up as a demonic player character whose only goal is to kill you. And now your friends are defending you, or you're hiding. There's this great item where it makes you look like a prop, it makes you look like an element of the environment. And so it's like everyone stay perfectly still and look like a tree, and hopefully they won't find us. It's just there's so many layers to this game. Justin, my brother, was determined not to like it, and now it's like I think literally his second favorite game after Sonic 2. Um, so I definitely recommend you check it out. Do you think you ever will?
Probably not. It doesn't. I've seen a lot of gameplay of that because it's the same it's the same company and sort of style I think as the Dark Souls games as well, right?
Correct, from software, yeah.
And they've got some. There's one other one that I for Blood something.
Bloodborne,
There we go.
yeah.
I know vague concepts about games now.
Your concepts
Um,
of plans. You're doing great.
yeah. um, I think just that they aren't the style of game that draws me in.
Yeah. You're more cerebral
I would
as a
say closer to I'm more of a mastermindy role than a player character.
well, speaking of big brain energy, let's go to my number 8, Portal 2 on the Xbox 360. Brian, this one's for you, buddy. The impossible game. Mike, you have to have played Portal by now.
I have. I played Portal and I played Portal 2. So I've beaten
Yeah.
both of those. However, I am going to add I have never touched the multiplayer of Portal 2.
Oh. Oh, that's so it's a whole different story and set of puzzles.
I do sort of know that, but I am also very much a solitary gamer usually. So that's one
Okay.
of those things where it's like the coordination that's like, this is like I definitely came to him late. And then it's a
Yeah.
little bit of like it feels like more work to try to coordinate to go do multiplayer.
I think we should do a night where we find another person who hasn't played it and Brian and I watch you guys play it. Like because I don't think I'd remember a lot of the solutions. It's probably been long enough, but I would be worried that buried somewhere in my mind, I would remember how to do a thing and that would really ruin it. But that game is the ultimate puzzle game because I never had to look up how to solve a puzzle. Like I came across them all through trial and error, experimentation, organic discovery, and the fact that they took that formula and then did it with a two-player co-op mode, and now you have to work in tandem. It's just perfection. It's perfection.
I mean, the I've never had to look up a solution to a puzzle sounds like someone who did not play enough Sierra games.
Yeah. That was like a whole thing. Yeah. I remember those. Wow, that takes me back.
Yeah.
Um, what else takes me back? Did I, is this the right title? I feel like I got the year wrong. Earth Defense Force 2024?
Um,
The
I'm
Xbox
not.
360 one that
I'm
was
not
like
sure. I
on
did.
your list.
Yeah, I didn't double check the year.
Okay. It's just weird to think that we're past the dark future where the Ravagers attacked. But I mean, Mike, can you, I'll let you talk to this one because you know why this is so good.
Yeah, I mean, the basic premise: aliens show up and start dropping giant robots and giant bugs, and you have to kill them. Usually with very powerful weapons that will destroy everything else.
Yeah. Everything else. Entire city blocks leveled,
Yeah, I
which
the best was a level where it was like you had to destroy something far away through the city and it was really hard and we kept dying until we decided to just fire rockets in that direction until every single building between us and the target was gone.
yeah. And
And
also
it worked.
is it called Crimson, the level where you're just on a beach and there's thousands of super powerful red ants charging towards you and
Yes.
there's no terrain to hide behind. Like it's just a battle of willpower. It's so cinematic to
I,
just see this quivering line on the horizon. Because that's the other thing about that game is that the environments are huge. And so you're like, what's that in the distance? Oh God, sir, it's ants, thousands of them, and each one's the size of like a bus. Oh,
also
such a
has
cool game.
turrets. Gotta love
Also has
turrets.
turrets, has online multiplayer, has co-op, has deathmatch for some reason, but we found a way to make it fun. Like
I
that game
still
rules.
there's one of those levels that was so large and so difficult that I remember at a certain point, it was we would play it and be dead in like a minute and then spend 5 or 10 minutes figuring out a new strategy of like, okay, what if we grab that vehicle over there, we go to here, then turn around, make a stand there, and then move. Like we were strategizing out longer than we were in get the levels to try to
We
get
did it
through one of
though.
those. Yeah, we
We
did.
100%ed that game, Mike. You and
Yeah.
me. And
And
that's a hard game at the hardest difficulty.
yeah. And that the way we defeated the boss, the final boss the first time will always stick with me because it's a giant ship with a whole bunch of stages to go through. Keeps dropping stuff. But you have to keep hitting that main ship and it was one of those things like, oh, you've done enough damage that it's just going to change shape into something new.
Yeah,
And one of us was already dead, probably me, but not
I think
sure.
it was. I think it was.
Um, and when the other person died, it ended up being the exact same time as the final shot on the ship. And I remember us both leaning forward just to be like, are we going to get this?
Right. Yeah. It's and Mike and I have been trying at this for like weeks. And so like it was the timing was so close that my sniper bullet was still traveling when I died. And so it was like, will the shot land? And it was such
And
a
will it
moment.
count? Because there's plenty of games will be like, well, you're dead, so that does not matter. I'm looking at Castlevania specifically on that one.
Well, how about our next game or my next game, number six, Mario Kart 64, because it has amazing racetracks, really tight gameplay, graphics that have aged well, but the death match where death doesn't really matter that much, Mike.
Yeah, it is the best multiplayer Mario Kart has ever done
Correct.
because the,
Yeah.
the the ability to turn into a bomb and just decide I am going to have my revenge on somebody is so satisfying.
So much
Um,
better than being out of the game.
it's even more satisfying to then get a star and destroy the person who's the bomb and know that they do not get to do anything. That is,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it really hits the peak, and there's something a lot less enjoyable to me about the like Mario Kart 8 where it still has like the balloon mode, but the score is based off of like how much damage you did. And I kind of like the you just got to survive because that creates
Yeah.
sort of a equalizer of you usually can't do that without getting aggressive at some point. But it also means you can be the least good player playing, and if you're lucky, two of the other people get eliminated while you're just staying out of it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of does feel like anyone could have this kind of thing and not just, well, it's going to be one of, the two best players is going to be one of them wins every time. I
That's
like the
also
you can survive.
to go back to one of my earlier games. That's why I like Splatoon, is that like if you're not that confident taking on other opponents, you still have a role to play because you could stay away from the main combat and just be inking turf where there's nobody. And you could be like, behind enemy lines or, hiding at a part of the map. So, yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. The best multiplayer Mario Kart game. And that's what I play Mario Kart for, is the multiplayer. So, wrapping it up here, we're in the top five. Towerfall on Nintendo Switch. Much love to Matt Makes Games, the studio behind Towerfall and Celeste. They just recently had to cancel a game, and it broke my heart because I think they make some of the best games on the
Oh wait,
planet. So
this is the same developer as Celeste?
it is, yeah.
I did not know that.
And actually, what's exciting about this? So you played this one, right? The Arrow Combat.
Yeah, not only have I played this one, this actually is one of the handful of Switch games I have.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and the Switch is the best version. It is the only version of the game to have six-player death matches, and it is the only playable. Is the only version of the game to have Celeste and her, um, excuse me, Madeline. Madeline is the name of main character, and Badeline is her evil negative self. They're guest characters in the Switch version. But this is the game I always recommend. It's the if you're listening to this, the best game you've never played, Towerfall. Buy it, whatever it is. It's this never like I think it's like $15 at full price. So worth it. Just utterly perfect multiplayer deathmatch, single player. You know, what's it called? What's the genre where it's really really difficult and you have to go back if you die? Is it Souls like?
Are you going for roguelite?
I think roguelite. I think that's the term. Except you're not like leveling up in this game. So I guess it doesn't really fit the bill.
Then it's just hard.
Yeah, it scratches a lot of itches though. It scratches a lot of itches.
It's definitely real good for multiplayer also because you definitely, or actually, again, it's sort of a last one standing thing. So you can kind of get far even just by the other people eliminating it and you stay out of the way. But also, it is a situation for multiplayer where because every round is over so quickly, like you can get eliminated and you're not waiting that long.
No, no. And there's enough chaos that like skilled players are getting eliminated just dumb luck and weird
Yeah.
ricochets. Yeah, it's a good equalizer. Um, Speaking of weird ricochets, I do that too much, Mike. I'm sorry I use that transition so much. But Halo, number 4 on the original Xbox, frickin' Halo, Mike. It was on your list. I mean, Jeep Wars. If I can just plug it one more time, Blood Gulch and Unlimited Rockets and 4 Jeeps. So you have to turn on like rally mode, right? You have to go to race mode
Um,
to get all 4 Jeeps. I'm pretty sure you have
Possibly.
to. Yeah. But anyway, it's a house rule where the only points that count are if you run somebody over with a Jeep.
After they have gotten into a Jeep first.
Correct. You have to knock them out of their Jeep and then run them over with your own Jeep.
Although you can
Um,
also, if you've been knocked out, you are able to use the rockets and the grenades.
yes. Yes.
It is
It's
so fun.
so
Um,
fun. Bumper cars on steroids.
yeah, if I can figure out how to get the Xbox account stuff working again, like I'm still trying to beat the original Halo on the single player campaign.
Yeah.
And I was partway through, and then I didn't play for a while. And now that account isn't working correctly because it's been stupidly designed. So it's
Dang.
trying to like auto log into something with the wrong password or something, and I can't fix it, which
No,
is
that
annoying. So
sucks.
I can't run Halo right now.
No, I hope you get to because it's worth it. It's
Yeah,
fantastic. All right, top 3. Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast. Felt a little dirty, double dipping into the Sonic franchise, but my justification is that there was the 2D Sonic, but this is the greatest 3D adventure game of all time. Fight me. It's better than Super Mario 64. It's better than Banjo-Kazooie, Lisa. It's better than Shadow Man, Derek. I don't know. Derek likes Shadow Man. He just wanted to throw him under the bus. I don't know why. Love you, Derek. Did you ever play Sonic Adventure?
I did not. Like, I really don't know anything about this one, I think. Or at least I
This
don't think I
one,
ever played this. I tried to determine it if I had.
it is epic because it takes place in like this series of like hub worlds that are connected. So there's like a city and there's a jungle, and there is like a, futuristic Robotnik evil city. And then you are unlocking new abilities to gain access to more levels. So it's got that Metroidvania thing of like, well, I can see there's a level over there, but Sonic will die if I try to make that jump. So I need to play this game until I get the ability to follow a trail of rings as if it was a rail. You can ride trails of rings in that game. Um, every character, and there were 6 playable characters, they all had a different genre. It's the Kirby Superstar of 3D games. So Sonics are speed based, Tails, you are flying obviously a lot, but also like you're racing Sonic to the end of levels. So that's kind of like the racing King DD portion. Knuckles, now it's fully exploration based, and you have to find these little shards of gems. The robot, he's a shooter. There's a fishing game. One of the characters is Big the Cat, and he freaking fishes, and he has a whole story that's pivotal towards the plot of the game, and it just culminates in the most epic ending of all time with your showdown against Chaos. It's 3D Sonic fans know Sonic Adventure, the original. Sonic Adventure 2 tends to get more love because it introduced Shadow and probably controlled better, but the Strauss boys know there's nothing like Sonic Adventure on the
And
Dreamcast.
Sonic Adventure, I think I saw, was the one that introduced whatever the heck the things are that you then have the Japanese restaurant in the Sonic 3 movie, right?
The Chow, yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
the pets, the
I
little
couldn't read my notes, so
Tamagotchis.
I knew it started with a CH, but then I wasn't. I'm like, chaos, that cannot be right.
Yeah. I recently discovered that there was a deleted scene from that Japanese cafe where they had to wear the Chow masks to sneak past the government, and it was really hokey. But they cut that scene, but they made action figures for that scene. So like you can get Tails with a Chow head. That's an action figure you can buy, and it's like, what? That wasn't in the movie. So must have been such a bummer to be making that toy and then see the movie and be like, what happened to the what? I worked so hard on this. Speaking of working so hard on this and it leaving, my number 2 game is a game that I have stopped playing. Marvel Snap on mobile. The greatest card digital card game ever made, and it got taken down with the TikTok ban. for spite, Mike. There was no security risk for Marvel Snap. This is purely the company who made it trying to apply pressure. And look, like I don't
I
political
I
every
thought
episode, okay?
I
But
thought the ban was on the whole company.
maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah, I had thought they banned anything from that company specifically.
Hmm. I wasn't led to believe that because the developers of Marvel Snap were completely caught off guard. And so I feel like if they knew they were going to be banned, they would have been told that. Because it doesn't benefit anyone to blindside your player base. But so those who aren't familiar with it, it's like you have Marvel characters represented by cards, and you've all played the game of War before, where you need to get a higher number than your opponent to win. Well, there's three simultaneous games of War going at the same time. You have 6 turns to win 2 out of those 3 games of War. And the cards are super well themed, so like Captain America inspires other characters and makes them stronger. Wolverine can't be killed, so every time he's killed, he hops to another place and gets stronger. And just the gameplay, the production value. It's 3-minute matches. Um, but when it got taken down with the TikTok ban, I have not gone back because I spent so much time playing it that I'm kind of trying to reclaim my life a little bit. And I know that sounds, but I mean, like 4 hours a day, Mike. Like, and granted, 2 of those hours is Jackie's fallen asleep, and I just need to stay awake so I don't snore and keep her up. But I'm curious to see what my life is like without Snap because it's so good. It consumed me.
So, did you have something that you're planning to use to fill in that? Like, are you gonna keep your Marvels fix in and go to like Marvel Rivals because that's apparently
I
good?
tried
Or
Marvel Rivals for a match. I think I still prefer Star Wars Hunters. I think that's still going to be my team-based shooter. Um, my game because I can't play the Switch when Jackie's asleep because the button clicks will keep her awake. So it's got to be touch-based. So I've been
um,
playing Pokemon Pocket, and it's not as good. It's just nowhere near as good, but it's something to do. You know, I imagine I'll revisit it once they get a new publisher. Um, and I'm not trying to take a stand on that. That's just like my kind of personal feelings about this whole situation felt icky.
and at least,
Um,
yeah, I can also see just the using it to give yourself a break from that.
yeah, yeah. Because like I was so hooked, I was trying to keep up with all the cards acquisition, do all my quests, spending extra money to not fall behind. And so now it's like, okay, I had this was out of my hands. Now it's a little easier.
Yeah,
But I'm sounding really negative, but just keep in mind that's because that's how good the game is. It's addicting. It's a drug. It's wild.
you're definitely not the only person I've heard talk about being like hooked on that for a stretch.
Yeah, Admiral J in our Discord showed up because of that game, so I get it, and I really don't want to leave it for good. I imagine we'll cross paths again, but um, a game I will never stop playing is my number one game, and this is different. This has changed recently. Because when we did our Street Fighter episode in season 1, I talked about Street Fighter 2 as my favorite game. And talking about Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, the arcade game and Dreamcast game and Xbox game and whatever, with the boys from the Cable Club League, I realized like this is my favorite game. Street Fighter is my favorite game series, and Street Fighter Third Strike edges Street Fighter 2 out by that much because it just plays better. What?
The way you're talking about that just reminds me of, like that movie trope where someone at the end realizes like they've been chasing after someone because they think they're in love with that person. They realize like their friend right there is like that kind of just like it was that person all along. Like that's that
It
just
was
there's
Third
some
Strike all
tone to that of
along.
just like you're at the end like it
Yeah.
it was always Street Fighter 3.
It was. It was. This was my college game. This was my online game. This is the only fighting game I can name where I enjoy playing every single character. And I learned how to be effective, not good, I'll say, but effective with every character. Um, it's just it's the greatest fighting game of all time, and that's my favorite genre, and that's my top game.
Yeah, we will also link over to the Cable Club League episode for a lot more OJMO talking about that game.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
even we talked about it a little bit on one of the previous Light Switch episodes as well. Because I did check it out. in advance of that.
Yeah, Jordan brought JJ Squawkers to the league to try and take down Third Strike, and I'll let you find out how that happened.
Yeah, I'm working through that one. I love that he brought that. It is so great to me.
That yeah, yeah. So those are my top 20 games, Mike. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk about them.
I was actually a bit surprised to see how many of these are Switch games.
Yeah.
And
And
actually,
Switch is
even
my
I would say you're actually even just more broadly because I've always thought of you as a Sega person for so long. And there's a couple. There are a couple on there.
yeah.
There's Genesis. There's Dreamcast. Um, but it was a lot more Nintendo Switch than I was expecting.
Nintendo Switch is my favorite console of all time. It just has everything I want. And Nintendo, are you listening? Switch 2, baby. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be exciting.
All right, so I think that wraps up our discussion now on Jaymo's top 20. So until next time, please remember to like, follow, or subscribe to the Old Switcheroo and rate or review the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also visit www.theoldswitcharoo.com to find all our social media links that are still up. And we'd love to hear what you thought of this episode or what you're hoping to hear in future episodes.
Also, be sure to join our Discord where you can talk games, play games, and maybe even make a friend or two. As always, thanks for listening to the Old Switcheroo, where we've been talking gaming retro with Mike and Jaymo.
I've been Mike.
And I've been Jaymo. Game on, everyone.